Hi, this is Blade with Blade FPV. I'm going to make a video on a quad autopsy. I was flying this quad a couple of days ago in the neighborhood and I lost it. And stay tuned and we'll go through the process that I'm going to be using to find out what really went wrong and why. Stay tuned. Okay, here's going to be my crashed in HD. I don't have a VTX OSD video. Just didn't get it to my goggles, so I'm going to try to make this fast. I'm going to be doing a power loop here, and my joysticks on my transmitter just feels loose and sluggish and non-responsive, and I just knew that something was wrong right now, so I'm going to try to bring it back and try to correct some things and trying to get it back oriented again. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to try to do a couple of seconds, I'm going to try to do a roll just to see if it will respond to that. And again, I'm getting sluggish, non-responsive out of this here. Then I know something's wrong, so I hit the GPS rescue switch to make it return. That didn't seem to work, so I start flipping other switches and I lose my video here. And then it just goes in and crashes into the tree. So okay, here is in a tree in my process of recovering it. You can see me actually walking below on the top right of the screen there, and I was fortunate to find it because I was only about 25 yards from the road and I could hear it beeping. So I had my transmitter, and what I'm doing is trying to arm it and trying to use the flip function to flip it over, but what I'm finding out is that every time I connect with the transmitter and try to do the flip function, you can hear that beeping, not enough GPS satellites, so it won't arm for me to even do a flip. And since I don't have video, I can't go into smart audio and disable the GPS failsafe or the GPS return home from the failsafe. So it's basically stuck in a tree. Here it is again. Turn my transmitter off and I'll turn it back on, and that's just not going to work out. I got to do something else. Okay, I determined that the quad was stuck in a tree about 90 something foot or 27 something meters high. I couldn't throw anything up there. Couldn't catapult anything over the limb. So what I ended up doing was using my Bobula HD. I tied a fishing line from a reel on it, flew over the limb, and was fortunate enough to fly it back down, and was able to recover the Mobula 7 HD. Here it is, just hanging there. What I've got is now some string that I'm going to tie to the fishing line, and I'm going to pull that line over the limb, and then I'm going to connect it to some larger rope, and then what I did was just shake it down after that. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is do a visual inspection. This is everything that was on it. I unplugged the battery. Of course, the battery is dead now. And make sure that all my props are tied on the engines. They are. Engines spin good. Okay, just kind of do a visual inspection. See if I see antennas connected. I don't see any wires disconnected. My camera's connected. I mean, it looks perfect. I really don't see anything that's burned or anything. So the next step is I'm just going to plug a battery in and get my transmitter after I take my props off and kind of see what happens. Okay, I got my props off. I did another visual inspection. Everything looks like it's connected. I don't see anything on the ESC burned or on my flight controller. So I've got my transmitter on over here, so I'm going to plug the battery in and just see what happens. Everything powers on. Seems like they're good ESCs. Let's see if it'll alarm. It's not arming. And I don't think it's arming because I don't have enough satellites yet. which wasn't my problem because I did have enough satellites when it armed the other day and took off. So I'm going to give it a few minutes or so, and even though I'm inside the house, and it is, well, it's kind of clear today, we'll see. And as soon as I get enough of the satellites, I'll be back. Okay, while I'm taking a look at the quad to see what's wrong with it, I went ahead and popped out the GoPro session and charging it up. The charge light come on, so hopefully I didn't screw up a battery in here. So I know that people has lost their GoPro session for like a year or so, and they found it and it charged up and it came out back. So okay, I connected to Betaflight, and I was able to connect to 4 satellites. That's what I've got it configured to, as a minimum of 4, and arm it now. It arms fine. All the motors are turning. Sounds great. So not sure what's going on right now. So let me take a look and see if the video, I'm getting any video, and see what my RSSI strength is on my little video display. And let's see here, I'm just taking a look and see where my, I've got about 90 something signal strength decibels there. And if I move it around, you can kind of see it going down, going back and forth. So that doesn't mean I didn't lose signal when I was flying, but yeah, it's still kind of funny. I've got 7 satellites indicated now here. And let's see if the modes will change from stable to, yeah, goes to air mode. Battery's good. Let's see here. I've actually got the barometer here, and it looks like it's okay. Timeline, so my video looks fine. I don't see anything wrong right now with the quad. I guess the next thing that I'll probably do is, before I do any calibration or anything, I think I'm going to take it out in the yard and just do a test hover and just see what happens with it the way it's configured right now. Okay, I'm a prospect. I'm ready to go out and do a test hover, but before I do that, I'm going to record that test hover. One of the things that I noted when I started flying the other day, as soon as it took off, I was trying to do a power loop, and as I went up, the throttle sticks were very sloppy, and I couldn't get it all the way over, and I finally leveled out and I tried to bring it home, and that's when I had issues. So I'm just going to see if the transmitter on the gimbals, on the joysticks, are they just, you know, sloppy? I don't know. And if that's the case, then I'm kind of pointing at, you know, the flight controller itself or the ESC, or maybe not. Maybe I need to calibrate it again. I don't know. I've not calibrated anything. I'm just going to go out and do a test hover just to see what happens. Let's go do that. Okay, I'm going to go connect the battery to this thing and see what happens with it. Okay, I'm just going to stand behind the camera here just to go ahead and arm it. And it's not armed yet. I don't have enough satellites yet. I didn't bring my display out. I'll give it a minute or so. Another thing that's surprising me is it should be beeping if I don't have enough satellites, and I'm not sure why that's occurring. So I'm just checking all my switches, and they're okay. There we go. So undoubtedly, it's armed now. My props are turning, so I have enough satellites. So I'm just going to I'm going to leave it in stable mode, and seems to work okay. That don't seem to be sloppy at all. Okay, let me put it down and put it in acro mode. acro mode. Controls are not sloppy at all. So what I'm going to do next, I think, is to go to a local school where it's got open field and fly it there and kind of go from there. I'm not sure what's going on. Well, I do have a theory, and if I can't find anything, I'll share what my theory is. So acro mode seems to be working. Things seem to be working. Let's go do a test in a field. Okay, one thing I'm going to do is actually try to charge the battery that I was using. I don't think the battery, well, of course, now the battery is completely exhausted from being in a tree plugged into the quad for a day or so. I'm sure that night it probably ran out of juice, but I don't think battery power had an issue with it, so I'm going to try and charge it now just to see if this thing will charge. If it'll charge, I'm actually going to take this battery out and try and fly it. So I've got it connected. Let's go to the charger and see if it'll even charge now. It's got connection here. Let me work on that and I'll get back to you. Okay, back to the battery I was trying to charge. I come up with a connection problem, so I got a little battery charger checker here. So I just wanted to check to see if it's got any voltage at all, and it is just as dead as a doornail. I mean, nothing. So it's just not going to charge. So I'm not sure what to do with this battery. I probably need to take a look at some YouTube videos to see what people do with their batteries, you know, after they lose a quad and it's still plugged in and it's totally discharged. Is there a way to kind of recharge it? If you know and you're watching this video, then comment, send me a message and let me know what I can do with this battery. Meanwhile, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to take a look online on YouTube to see what other people are doing. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is head down to the school and see if I can't fly that quad. Okay, here I am at a field at a local school. I'm going to try to recreate everything. Unfortunately, I did not record my OSD on my VTX display. Silly me. But I'm going to try to recreate. I'm about to do a power loop. And as I'm doing it, I can't do it. Again, my joysticks feel sloppy. I don't know what's going on. I have recreated the problem. I've got a problem. Not sure what it is. Then I have an epiphany. You know what? I bet if I turn it into acro mode, it might work. So let's see what happens here. So about this point, I make that decision. So I'll put it in acro mode, do a power loop, and it works. So guess what? Probably one of the reasons it crashes because I was in stable mode and not in acro mode, and then I got frustrated and just lost control. So that was my number one problem, stupidity. Okay, I wanted to do one final test. Here I am flying again, and I do have my OSD Smart audio display on and recording, and just kind of put it through some paces in acro mode to make sure that I'm not going to lose anything, any video. The joysticks felt great. I'm just kind of putting through the paces. I'm just doing flips and loops and things like that with no issue. Want to give it a good test. Still concerned that my video was going to go out. So I'm just going through, just doing some flying here. Not a big deal. If you look, I've got 12 to 14 satellites on. My height, altitude seems very accurate. My arrow back to home seems to be very accurate. No problem there. I'll fly low and then I'll fly high. I am just trying to really shake this drone and just to see if I've got any loose connections or a heat problem or anything like that with my video. I'm more concerned about my video at this point than anything else because me not putting it into acro or air mode was definitely a problem. I just did not do that. So what I'm going to do is just to test the GPS rescue mode here in a minute or so, just to make sure that it works. Even though I tried to flip the switch, I couldn't see it work before, or didn't notice it work. So I'm going to attempt that here after another fly around, I think. So again, just trying to put it through some paces, just trying to force it to break. So here I'm trying to get enough distance away, and on the top right of the display in the center you can see the arrow go to rescue, which it just did. So it's back into rescue mode, so it's coming back home. And the wind was blowing a little bit, so it kind of blew it over me, so you'll actually see the quad turn around and try to correct itself, and it's trying to lower. So I'm going from from 180 something feet, 190. It's kind of climbing for some reason. I think again it's because of the wind. Now I start to come down in altitude, and then I take control back. I go back into acro mode, and then I'm satisfied, so I just come in for a landing, and I'm calling it a good test. Okay, after that flight, I'm going to finish up with my autopsy conclusions. I've got really 3 conclusions. One of the conclusions is that the reason I did not do a loop or could not do a roll is simply because I was in stabilized mode and not acro mode. So that was a pilot error. No doubt about it. That was my fault. The second problem that I've got of no video, I'm going to blame that on the Betaflight firmware. And the reason I'm going to do that is because when I was trying to regain control, when I wanted to go in the GPS rescue, I was flipping the switch. Nothing seemed to respond. I probably, and I'm almost positive that I hit the flip over switch. So, when your quad lands upside down, you want to flip it over. I was hitting that. I think I armed and disarmed it a couple of times, and why the quad was, going down, just like it's shown in the video. So somehow I think Betaflight in the code somehow turned off my VTX, and that's what I believe happened, because I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't unplug the battery and plug it back in because it was in a tree. I couldn't do that. So that's what my conclusion of why I lost video was, something to do with me corrupting the program that was running. It got hung up in a loop and it turned my video off. That's it. Third, the reason that I couldn't arm it in the tree and do a flip was because when I was upside down and the GPS system here lost all contact, I lost all satellites. I didn't have 4 or more satellites, so that would not allow me to arm it so I could flip it out or anything like that. And since I did not have video, I could not go and use smart audio to turn GPS rescue off in failsafe. Now, if I could have had video and I could have went into smart audio with the failsafe, turn off GPS failsafe, I could probably have rocked it back and forth and got it out of the tree. But since I could not, arm it, since I could not see any video, I couldn't see myself going into smart audio to choose that option. So that's it. Pilot error, corruption in the code. I'll blame that on the VTX where I lost the signal there. And also I couldn't arm it because I didn't have enough satellites, because it was in a tree upside down and landed. So that's it. So I hope you learned something. I did. I learned that even though I've been flying over a year now, I made a stupid rookie mistake of leaving it in stable mode, and then I'm panicking because I was over trees and stuff like that, and that was just my problem. The good news is I did get it back. It's intact, don't have a problem with it. And I was very fortunate that I got this back, because you can see in that video where it was in that tree. If the battery hadn't been on and the buzzer was not loud enough for me to hear this, I would never have found this quad. Never in a million years. And this was only the ECS buzzer on here. This was not a special buzzer or anything like that. And it made a noise I could hear probably about 25 yards away, which was pretty cool. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Glad you watched, glad you subscribed. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.